All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Joan Crutchfield, and I really appreciate you all coming and being with us for our first Zoom meeting. We wanted to make sure that families knew about the pre-K programs that are here in Wake County. And this is actually our very first Zoom meeting. So I want thank you all for giving me just a little bit of time before we got started so that we can put everybody in the meeting and get everybody situated. And we'll go ahead and get started. So again, thank you all for coming as we discuss the pre-K in Wake County. Please note that this session is going to be recorded. This kind of helps us to improve on what it is that we're doing. But again, if you do not want to be on camera, feel free to continue to have your cameras off. But to get started, my name is Joan Crutchfield, and I am the NC Pre-K Manager here at Wake County Smart Start. I am here with my colleagues Tati Bedelia, as you see there, and Nikki McDougall. Nikki, you want to turn your camera on so people can see you. So Tati is our outreach assistant, and Nikki is our community outreach specialist. And together we are going to facilitate this meeting, which is our first English version for today. We'll have a Spanish one later at 2:30. We'll be giving you a little bit of background about the programs here in Wake County, and then I'll turn it over to my colleague Tati. She will then be able to tell you how to complete the application, what documents you need, and the timeline to hear back from us regarding the status of your child's application. If you have any questions throughout this presentation, please add them to the chat, and Nikki will be monitoring those for us, and and we'll get you a response. However, if you prefer, you can we'll also have the opportunity for you to speak verbally or ask your questions out loud at the end of the presentation. But for now, we ask that you mute yourselves and stay on mute as we start our presentation. So to begin, in Wake County, we have what is called a universal application. That means that when you apply, you are applying for 3 publicly funded preschool programs. Those programs include Title I, which is that is administrated through Wake County Public Schools, Telemon Head Start, and then of course NC Pre-K, which is administered through Wake County Smart Start. Each program is free to those who qualify. However, the eligibility requirements are different for each program. Head Start and NC Pre-K looks at the income of a family in order to qualify, and whereas Title I looks at the educational need of children. For Head Start, families must be below the federal poverty guidelines. Families also may qualify if they are a foster child, or if you receive SSI, or which is the supplemental income, if you have worked first, or if you are a McKinney-Vento. To qualify for NC Pre-K, your family's income must be at or below 75% of the state median income. NC Pre-K first seeks to place children with the highest need. However, a small percentage of children can be placed if they have a risk factor, and those risk factors include educational need, developmental disability, chronic health illness or condition, or limited English proficiency. So, and then last, to qualify for Title I, your child has to have what is called an educational need, which is determined by a Brigant's developmental screening. All families that apply by April 30th will receive that screening, so there's no worries there. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tati, where she'll walk you through the application process. So Tati.
Good afternoon, welcome. I'm very happy that you are able to join us. Today we're going to go over the application for this current year, which is 21-22. I'm the outreach assistant for the program. First of all, the Wake County Pre-K application, your child needs to be 4 by August 31st of this year. That means that your child needs to turn 4 between September 1st, 2016 and August 31st, 2017. Any children that are younger than that, which is, I mean, if your child turns 4 as of September 1st, 2017, you need to apply through Head Start. And they have 3 different centers. There's one in Raleigh called Crosby Head Start, one in Cary, which is Parkway Head Start, and the third one is Nightdale. As you see, each center has a phone number. So you know, if you need those phone numbers, please note them down for future reference. Then our next thing that we're going to go over is the beginning of the application. The beginning of the application, we start with the student information. In that page, we have to make sure that you have the child legal name. That means the same way that appears in your official birth certificate, you will put the child's name, the last name, the first name, and a middle name if you have one. Again, the date of birth is very, very important. Your child needs to be born between September 1st, 2016 to August 31st, 2017. This program is really to prepare your child the year before they start kindergarten. You need to indicate whether it's male or female. It's very important for us to have a phone number, because if we have any question, we have a phone number we could contact you. Also, you need to indicate whether your child is Hispanic or not. And this year we have a new question. It's if your child is a US citizen. This has nothing to do with the application, okay? It's just a question that has to be answered. That information is confidential and it will stay with us. Just because your child is not a citizen doesn't mean you cannot apply. You're more than welcome to apply as long as you reside in Wake County. Also, you have to indicate the race, you know, identify whether you're Native American or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, white or Native American or Pacific Islander. Then we go to the family information, okay? This, you have to put down where if you're the parent or the custodian of this child, we need your first name, your last name, your email, and you have to indicate the relationship to the child, whether you're the mother, the father, the legal guardian, or other. We need, again, contact number. So if you have a home phone number, we need it. If you have a day phone, which mostly is if you prefer for us to contact you with any question at work, you could put that number or your cell number, okay? Then again, if it's a father and mother, we do the same information: first name, last name, email, relation to the child, home number, day number, cell number, and also the next line is your home address. If you live in an apartment, sometimes there's an apartment number, so it's very important that besides the street name and number, you indicate whether there's an apartment number. In case we have to send you any information by mail, if we don't have that apartment number, that's gonna be returned to us. The city and the state and the zip code. It's very important that you fill out every single line. Then we have more family information. Some families might prefer to receive their mail into another address or a PO box in the post office. So please indicate it here, okay? You know, if you have a different address where you receive mail. Another question that is new in our application this year is, where does the student live? Does he live with parent number 1, parent number 2? Because sometimes our families, you know, the children live with either or. If the child live with both parents, if it's a legal custodian or other. We need for you to indicate either one or two of these lines. Also, another question that is new this year is this a temporary address? You know, you might be in a shelter or in a hotel. So please indicate yes or no. And the most important thing, for us to be able to review your application and your child to be part of a program, you must reside in Wake County. If you reside in another county, we cannot serve you. You have to apply to the county where you live. Another new question that we have this year is, where is the child sleeping at night? So you have to indicate one, does the student live with the parent or legal guardians? Are you living in a hotel or motel? In a shelter? Are you moving from place to place or in a church? So you have to check one of these boxes that apply to your family situation. The next one is the family size. In this part of the application, you could only list down the immediate family. That means mother, father, the child, and the sibling, brother, sister, or stepbrother, or stepsister. You cannot put down your grandmother, she lives with you, your aunt, your uncle, only immediate family. And make sure that you indicate the name, who you are, and the birthday in relation to the child. Are you the mother, the father, the brother, the sister, and the brother? And after you have put all your names down, then the little box that says total number in the family, according to the names that you have put down in this area, that's the total persons in your family household. The next line that we add, the other part, is home language information. A lot of our children speak more than one language. So in the first one, this is, what language does your child most frequently use to communicate? You could put English, Spanish, English, Russian and English, Arabic only. And the next one, what language do you most frequently speak to your child? The same thing, you indicate the language. And what language did your child first learn to talk? So this is very important for you to indicate what language does your child, communicate, speak frequently, and started to talk. The next one is the risk factors, okay? Some of your children might have an IEP. Some of them might have a chronic illness. Some might have educational need. For each one of these, if you indicate in the application that your child has one of these, we need the official documentation. So if your child has an IEP, we need the copy of the IEP. If your child has a chronic health, we need a copy of that condition. If your child have an educational need, we also need those documentation. In the limited English proficiency, we don't need any documentation because on the previous page, you will have indicated that your child speaks another language. So for that part, due to the fact that you already have filled out the application, that is the documentation for the limited English proficiency. The next one we're gonna go is the education piece, okay? In the top of the sheet, as you see, there's 3 questions and it says mark only one. So if your child never been in daycare, you could mark that part. If your child in the past have been in daycare, in this part, if you mark, we need the name of the center or the daycare and the last day that your child attended. And the last one is your child currently attending daycare or program? So we are going to need the daycare name, the address, the city, the state, the zip code, and where it says program start, the majority of the families don't know that. but we need to know whether your child goes to school more than 10 miles or less, 10 hours or less, and whether you're receiving a voucher. The next part of it is very important for us because, you know, in the situation that we are now, we want to know how effective or how could we reach your, you know, the family so they be able to know about your program, about our program, the NC Pre-K, excuse me. So either did you find out by internet, by Facebook, by Twitter, a community event, the daycare, the newspaper, flyer, a family member, the church, school, or other. You could check as many as does apply to you. How did you find out about our program? The next one, we're gonna go to family income, okay? In the family income, if you're a two-parent family, whether or not both parents work, we need for you to fill out. So that says parent number work doesn't work. So you put the parent's number one name and that person is seeking employment, attending school, attending job training. Also, this person might not be working, but they might receive unemployment or SSI, SSA, alimony, child support, workman comp, disability. So you, whatever applies to you, please make sure that you indicate the amount and how do you get this income. And we are going to need verification of that income. The same thing goes to parent number two. If that person works, you're gonna put the person's name, how many hours per week, the name of the employer, the work number, and also in the income before taxes, that means the gross income. So you're gonna indicate the amount. How do you get paid? Weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, or monthly? Are you receiving alimony? Are you receiving child support, workman comp, disability, unemployment, SSI, SSA, work first? Each of these, we're going to need documentation. Then the next one is the family responsibility. There's 7 paragraphs, and it's very important that you read them thoroughly. And as it indicating the top, it says that you must initial every paragraph. That means every time you initial the paragraph, you read exactly what the paragraph said and you agree with it. There's one that's very important for us, which is the transportation issue. As you know, our program does not provide transportation. So a lot of time, parents initial that, and then when we assign them, they're calling us back, oh, I don't have transportation. But you initial that in the application. So make sure that you understand, like it says, I understand that the transportation to and from the pre-K program will be the family's responsibility. So each one, please read them carefully and initial each box because it has to be initial. And the last part of the application is the family agreement. In the family agreement, one of the first one is that you understand that by signing this application, you are the person that makes the educational decision for this child, okay? And if there's a shared custody, that means if you have shared custody, both parents must sign the application and also send documentation, okay? And so on and so forth. You have to sign the agreement, put down the relation to the child, and the date that you sign the agreement. It's very important for us because we're gonna make sure for the safety of your child that the person that is in the applying and saying that that's the parent is the one that's signing, and we're verifying that that name is the person that is in the front that says it's the parent of the child. The next thing we're going to go over is the documentation required. For this application to be processed, we're going to need 3 different documentation, okay? I'm just gonna go over them first and then explain in detail the documentations that we need. Copy of the birth certificate, proof of resident of Wake County, and all sources income. The first we're gonna start is with the copy of the birth certificate. I will show you what is not a birth certificate. This is just a sample. So if you have one of these that says maternity hospital certificate of birth, that is not a birth certificate. If you also have another paper that we don't have a sample, but we come across a lot that it says mother verification fact, that is not a birth certificate. I am going to show you a sample of an official birth certificate. This is an official birth certificate. It will have the seal of the state or the city, and it will have the child's full name, date of birth, and all the information about the parent. With the birth certificate, we are going to verify that if you put down that you are Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith, that the birth certificate certified that Mr. Smith or Mrs. Smith are the parent of this child. The next thing that we are going to need is the proof of residence. For our documents for the proof of residence, okay, we need either a utility bill, which you see a copy here, which utility bill means water, gas, or electricity that's under the parent name, or the person might be the guardian, with the address. It cannot be an AT&T bill, which is your phone bill, a cellular bill. It cannot be your Spectrum. It cannot be a bill from your insurance. It has to be utility, which is mean water, gas, or electricity. Or you could send us a copy of your lease. The copy of the lease, it has to be under your name or your husband's name. You know, it has to show that you're part of the lease. And the lease has a lot of pages, which a lot of time we don't even read them. But we only need 2 pages from that lease. So if you don't have the utility bill, you could send us a copy of your lease. And we need the front page, which indicates the address and the tenants in that lease, which will have your name, your husband's name, or your children's name, and the signature page. The signature page is the last page on the lease, almost to the last sometimes, that is signed by you, the tenant, and the landlord, and dated. And one thing that is very important on that lease is make sure that that lease is current. So you might have those pages, but if the lease had expired in December of last year, that lease is no good for us. So it has to be a current lease. And our last part that we need is the proof of income. This year, there was a little change on the proof of income as far as how many pay stubs you have to send in. So if you work and your spouse work, we need both of you, right? If you get paid weekly, we're gonna need four pay stubs that are consecutive. So let's say you are applying now as March. So we need all the pay stubs that are consecutive for February. If you get paid bi-weekly or twice a month, we're gonna need the last 2 pay stubs of February. If you get paid monthly, we need for you to send us the month of January and February. Or you could send us your 220 W-2 forms or your income taxes. If you receive unemployment, SSI, work first, we need disability, we need documentation for that amount of money that you receive. Also, some of our families, they get paid cash. In those cases, we need a formal letter from the employer with the name of the employer, the address, the phone number, date, stating that you work for them, either how many hours per week, the rate per hour, or how do you get paid weekly, and signed by the employer. Then I'm going to show you a sample of the pay stub. The sample of the pay stub, as you see, it will indicate your company where you work from, your name. Also will indicate the pay period, not the payday. The payday is when you receive your payment of your work for that period of time. The pay period is what you getting paid for. So in this case, it will be from 9/16/20 to 9/30. That means every 2 weeks. It also indicates the number of hours that you work. In this case, it's 80, which is 2 weeks, and the rate per hour. This is what we need. The consecutive pay stub, you have to make sure that it's current. So if you apply in March, we need February pay stub. We do not need December or January. It has to be current pay stub. And accordingly to how you get paid, that's the number of pay stub that you have to send in. And we have another proof of income for those families that don't have any income at all. We have a special form in our website. It's called Zero Income Statement. This is for families that don't receive unemployment, Medicare, SSI, SSA, disability, work first. This document, the parents need to put the child's name, indicate what benefits or supporting benefits or services are receiving. The parent will sign it and date it, but it's very important. You need to have a witness to sign this document. If this document is not signed by a witness, we cannot accept it. Another thing is it cannot be signed by a husband or a wife because that will be a conflict of interest. It could be signed by, you might have a family that's signing or a friend, or even your social worker could sign it. They will put the signature, the date, and they will print because we need to know who signed this. And then we need to have information. Who are you in family, into this family? And a contact number. We need a phone number. So those are the documents that we need as proof of income. One thing I want to talk to you about is that the way you apply for NCPK this year. There's only 2 ways to apply. You could apply online, or we also have a copy of the application online that you could make a copy and mail it in regular mail with all the documents required. If you send an application without the documents required, we cannot process the application, and we have to contact you to get the correct documents required. Another thing that I mentioned before, but I'm going to mention now again, is the optional documentation. Like I explained before, if your child has an IEP, if you're a parent and in your military service, current and active duty, or serious injury, or there was a death resulting from military service, chronic illness, and educational need, we need for you to send in the copies of these documents with your application. It's very important. If you indicate in the application any of these, then you need to send that documentation. And like I said before, there's only 2 ways that you could apply, either online or make a copy of the application and mail it in. Our office is closed. You could also reach me by phone if you have any questions. Also, I will give you an email address that if you have any questions, we're more than happy to help you. At this moment, I'm open for questions either in the chat or alive, and I want to thank you very, very much for your attention. My name is Tati Padilla. My email address is tpadilla@waycounty-smart-start. My direct number is 919-723-9283. One of the things that I would like to tell you is that the best way to reach me is by email. Since I get a lot of phone calls, by email, I'll be able to answer you quicker than on the phone, because sometimes I have a lot of phone calls and I'm trying to answer them as quick as possible. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, here I have one question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for all the good information. So I submitted the application online for my daughter. I uploaded the copy of her passport. I did not upload the birth certificate because I thought a passport is the same, effective as a birth certificate. So is that okay, or do you need me to send also her birth certificate?
Okay, for the foreign-born children, okay, we need both of them because we have to borrow, most of the time the passport will not show the parents, but the birth certificate does. So we have to verify that is you, the parent of this child. So it's very helpful for us, especially, we need to verify to make sure that you are the parent of this child. So every document that we ask for you is to the security of this child.
I understand. So that's good. How do I send you her birth certificate? Can I do it online or send you email?
You could attach it as a PDF attachment. Do not send photos, okay, of the document, or I could give you my fax number and you could fax it to me. My fax number is 919-851-9530. And please indicate your child's name and date of birth. So when I receive it, I match it to your child's file.
I see. So I see here on the screen the email address. Can I send the PDF file to this email address?
Yes, sir. You're more than welcome to send it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I have to mention something that I overlooked, that all parents will be notified by the middle of August the status of the child application, whether you did not qualify or not, whether you'll be in a waiting list, or if you're assigned to a center no more than 10 miles from where you live, because we don't provide transportation, you will be contacted by the director of that program.
Hi, Tati. So it looks like we have someone who has their hand raised. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name. Nethravati?
It's Netravati. That's fine.
Okay.
Thanks a lot for the information. It was a very useful information. One question we had is if you can provide us a little more information on what is Title I and how it is different from other program, that would really help us, or at least.
Okay. Our application is universal, like I explained was explained to you before. The Title I program is only your child might qualify, depends on the result of the screening. So it's based on educational need. So any child that applies between January 1st and April 30, all those children will be screened. Okay, that means that you have the opportunity to be qualified to any of the program. So when your child takes the screening, if your child does very well in the screening, your child will not qualify for the Title I schools, then your child will be considered to the programs in the regular NC Pre-K and also the classroom that are NC Pre-K under the Head Start programs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question. So my son goes to the elementary school here. Is my daughter, if she get approved to the pre-K program, is she going to the same elementary school or different facility?
There's no guarantee, sir. So we don't know whether your child that you're applying for will qualify for the NC Pre-K program. And also, just because you have a child in a certain public school, that doesn't mean that the one for the NC Pre-K is gonna go there, okay? It's not like kindergarten that when you apply for kindergarten, every child has to have been served, but we don't know whether your child will be part of the program or which part of the program he'll be, whether he will qualify the Title I, and that's only based on the screening, or if he qualified for a regular NC Pre-K classroom or the Head Start classroom. So that's why we'll notify all the parents by the middle of August, the status of your child application. And also, your other child might be in that school, but there's only X amount of spaces for the pre-K programs on the Title I, and you might have 9 spaces, and they might be in that area, in that particular area, about 200 children. So they're gonna base that on the child with the greatest needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Is there any more clarification or questions that I could help you with?
Yeah, I don't have further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tati, I have a question. How long will children be on the wait list? How long does it take to be moved off the wait list?
Okay, we don't have a time limit because remember, your child will be placed no more than 10 miles from where you live, and not until we have a space available. When a child drops out of the program, that's when we have a space available. We don't know when and where in the county we are going to have a space available for your child, because we cannot assign your child outside the 10-mile radius. So sometimes when they first assign your child, we assign the children, there's not space for your child, which means you're in a waiting list. Okay, it might happen that at the beginning we start and contacting the family. A lot of our families have moved. So, we have different areas that we might have a slot, we might not have a slot. So the only time we're able to place a child from the waiting list if a spot becomes available in the area where you live and how many children are in that waiting list. So based on the child with the greatest needs, that's the next child that will be placed in that space no more than 10 miles from their home address.
I have another question. How exactly are children assigned? I think they're asking maybe about, I know you mentioned the vicinity that you only go within those 10 miles. But what happens if that location, if the parent would like to move the child? I think that's what they're asking.
Okay.
Is that possible to reassign a child if they would like them in another location?
We cannot assign outside the 10-mile radius, okay? Because if we assign your child outside that 10-mile radius, that means that the child that belongs in that other area won't have a space. So we do not do transfers, very seldom, okay? We do not do transfers. So the system will tell us which is the closest center that is located to your home address. Now, if you move, if we have assigned you to a center and you move, you have to send in the update address and we will correct our files, and then you have to be on a waiting list to see if there's a spot available in the new area where you live. But you have to go to the center where you're going and you have to deny that slot for us to put you back in the waiting list. So when a spot becomes available in the new area that you live, we be able to place your child again.
Okay, so just for clarity, if a parent actually receives a placement and they do not want that particular placement, they have to go back to the waiting list and wait for a placement in the new center that they're interested in. Is that what you're saying?
No, they go back in the waiting list, okay? There's other children besides, we already have given the parent that opportunity, okay? But we have other children waiting. So we will try our best, but if there's other children ahead of hers that have never given the opportunity, those children will be assigned. Tasha, are you on the call? Because Tasha could also clarify more than I can.
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. So with that question, the way it works, and now hopefully I'm understanding the question. If your child is assigned to, let's just say, apples and oranges, and you prefer that they go to tomato and cucumber, you can decline apple and oranges, apples and whatever I said, sorry about that, and go back on the wait list. And if something comes available and your child at tomatoes and your child is the next to be placed, then we would try to place your child. But if your child comes up under the first child, that child will be placed first and your child will remain on the wait list until possibly another space comes available. And if your child comes up then we can do that. But as far as transfers, we do not offer transfers. So the way it works, the only way to make a placement is from the wait list. So that means you couldn't remain at apples until something comes available at oranges. You would have to continue to stay at apples until we, work through the wait list that way. So hopefully that answers your question. But we try to stay within that 10-mile radius, just so that families are not having to travel for too long, and just to help out, because we know how the Wake County traffic can be. So we do try to stay within that 10-mile radius.
Thank you, Tasha.
You're welcome.
That did help with clarity. I do have a few more questions. What if I don't have access to a computer? That's what they're saying. Is there someone that can help them or assist them with completing the application?
If you don't have an access to a computer, you have my email. You could send me an email and I'll be more than glad to send you a paper copy of the application. So you could fill it out and then, send it back to us by regular mail with the documents required.
Can I have someone complete the application for me?
That means, does the person know how to read? Because the person that needs to complete the application has to be the parent. The parent needs to know what they're signing, what is for. In some cases, we might have people that are not able to read and somebody could help them, but that person have to explain page by page by page, what are they signing? What is the information? So the parent knows that if that person put yes or no in that column, it's exactly, she understood why she's pointing yes or no. Now the application is in 2 languages, in English and in Spanish. So those people that speak Spanish, the application is in Spanish. And, you know, the application has to be signed by the parent. So it's important that the parent, you know what they're signing, giving us the correct information for this child that they applied for the pre-K program. And another thing that's very, very important, that even though I explained a little bit, if you have guardianship of a child, we need that paperwork. If you have shared custody, we need that paperwork. If you are a foster parent, we need that documentation. Every documentation that we ask you for is the protection of this child. So we have to verify if you sign that is in the front that you're the mother, we have to have documentation that back that up, that yes, you're the mother or the guardian or the foster parent for this particular child.
I don't have any more questions coming to me.
Hi, I have a question. If my kids don't qualify for Title I, will you accommodate us in any other program?
If your child doesn't qualify for Title I, because
Yes.
you have applied between January 1st and April 30th, your child will be considered for the other programs.
Between January 1st and, sorry.
The applications received between
Okay.
January 1st and April 30th have
Okay.
the opportunity to be considered to all three programs, whether the classroom are on the Title I school, whether they're on the private sectors, or whether in the Head Start Center and NC Pre-K classroom. So if
Okay.
your child does very well in the screening, that means your child is not going to qualify for Title I, then
Okay.
we are going to consider your application for the private sectors pre-K program and the Head Start classroom pre-K program.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tati, I don't have any more questions in the chat.
Okay. I want to thank everybody that participated with us in reference to going over the application for the 21-22 school year and going over the documentations required for us to process this application. You have my email. If you have any other questions, like I explained before, it's easier for you to reach me by email, or you could reach me by phone. I want to thank you very, very much for being part of this effort to reach out to our families due to the condition that we are, you know, the health condition that what's going on. So please, if you know any other families, let them know that we are open. We're taking application either by mail, if they make a copy. If they cannot make a copy, they could email me. I'd be more than happy to send them a paper copy, or they could apply directly online for the child to be part or be considered for the NC Pre-K program for the year 21-22. Thank you.
Thank you.